Before we begin, I want to thank you all for being here tonight. If you like my stories, please consider giving me like and subscribe. It means the whole world to me. Enjoy the stories, and I hope you get the scare you're looking for. I never meant to go that deep. Curiosity, boredom, the arrogance of thinking I was smarter than whatever might be waiting in the dark. It led me further than I should have gone. I started with surface-level oddities, forums with cryptic puzzles, anonymous messages from people who claimed to know secrets they shouldn't. Most of it was laughable, but then I found a post that didn't try to convince me of anything. It just stated one fact. You don't find the room finds you. No explanation, no link, just that. I ignored it for a while, but the phrase stayed with me, whispering at the edge of every search, every new site I visited on the darker side of the internet. It was like a riddle that didn't want to be solved, until it did. It began with the glitches. Pages I never opened would suddenly appear in my history. Static would fill my headphones even when they weren't plugged in. My webcam light would flicker at night. Once my speakers turned on by themselves and played only one sentence in a distorted voice. The door is open. That was when the nightmares began. In them, I was walking down a hallway with no walls, just flickering lights hanging in the air. I'd hear a hum, low and constant, growing louder with each step. At the end of the hallway, there was always a single door, rusted, rotting, breathing. I told myself it was stress, lack of sleep, too much time spent staring at code and screens. But deep down, I knew something had changed. Something had followed me back from those places I never should have visited. One night, I was working on an encrypted forum someone had recommended, supposedly a place where the real dark web lived. The screen froze. Everything went black. Then, a message appeared across the center of my monitor in plain white text. You are now inside the room. There was no window to close, no keyboard response. The message disappeared, replaced by a live video feed. A small room, concrete floor, no windows, one wooden chair, and on it, a man, bound at the wrists and ankles, his head hanging forward. At first, I thought it was a recording, but the man lifted his head slowly, painfully, and stared straight at me. His mouth moved, though I couldn't hear what he was saying. I leaned closer. That's when the second camera turned on. It was my room, from the same angle as my webcam, except I wasn't sitting at my desk. The chair was empty, the lights were off, but someone was standing just outside the frame, breathing. I froze. My room was quiet, empty, or it should have been. I turned around slowly, half expecting to see a figure behind me. Nothing. I turned back to the screen. The second feed was gone. Only the man in the chair remained. This time I could hear him. Don't let it out. His voice was hoarse, broken, like he hadn't spoken in weeks. It waits for you to look away, that's how it escapes. I closed the laptop. I unplugged it. I took the battery out. But when I looked up, the feed was still playing. Not on the screen. In my head. I could see the room. Everywhere I turned, it became part of my vision, like an overlay. The concrete floor, the walls, the chair, burned into my sight. I saw it while brushing my teeth. I saw it when I closed my eyes. And always I saw the man in the chair watching me silently, mouthing the same words. Don't let it out. I didn't sleep that night, or the one after. I started avoiding screens, phones, TVs, monitors, anything that might act as a window. But it didn't matter. The room was no longer inside a device. It was inside me, and it was changing. On the fourth night, the man in the chair was gone. The room was empty. At first, I thought maybe it was over. Maybe I'd won somehow. But that's when the second door appeared. In the back corner of the room, where there had never been a door before, a new one had formed. Heavy, steel, bolted from the outside, and something was knocking from the other side. I could hear it, soft at first, then louder, rhythmic, desperate, and with every knock, I felt something in me fracture, like a thin wall inside my mind was beginning to crack. That's when I saw the writing on the door. It hadn't been there before. You brought it here. It knocked again, then again. I stopped leaving the apartment. I stopped speaking to anyone. I started hearing whispers through the walls, not from neighbors, from the room, as if it was expanding, pushing outward through my reality. That's when I realized the truth. The room wasn't a place, it was a contagion. A digital infection passed through code and attention. It spread by being seen, watched, feared. Every person who opened that stream, who viewed that feed, who even read the phrase, "You don't find the room finds you," was a carrier. We were building it together, one thought, one click, one sleepless night at a time. And now, something wanted out. I began hearing footsteps in my hallway when I knew no one else was home. Wet, dragging steps, slow, purposeful. My phone would ring, but when I answered, it was only silence. No, not silence, breathing. One night, I woke up on the floor, not in my bedroom, in the concrete room, the real one. I was strapped to the same chair, wrists raw from the ropes. The steel door stood in front of me, rattling now, whatever was behind it growing more impatient by the second. I screamed. No one came. Then the screen turned on. Not a real screen, just a rectangle of glowing light on the far wall. On it, I saw my apartment, my desk, my empty chair, and the webcam's red light blinking. Someone was watching me. That's when I understood. This was how it spread. The room fed itself by showing others what it had done. It needed witnesses. It needed fear. It needed eyes. The steel door groaned. A voice came from behind it, impossibly deep and cracking with pressure. "You brought me shape. You brought me skin. Now bring me theirs." I woke up screaming. But I wasn't in my bed. I was at my desk, laptop open, webcam on, and the stream was broadcasting. To thousands, comments poured in down the side of the screen, laughing, confused, afraid, people asking if it was a hoax, if it was a movie, if it was real. I wanted to tell them to stop watching, but I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. All I could do was stare as the door in the concrete room began to open. And as something beyond words stepped through, dragging its shadow behind it like a virus, I realized the final truth. There is no escape. The room doesn't want to trap you. It wants to replace you. And once you see it, you're already inside. It started with a routine. Every night after work, I'd sit in front of my screen and drift into the deeper parts of the internet. Not out of necessity, not even for thrill. Just curiosity. I wasn't a hacker, not a journalist. I wasn't even looking for anything specific. I just wanted to see what was out there, beneath the surface. Most of it was trash. Scam sites, forums with cryptic messages, grainy videos of people pretending to be mysterious. But once in a while, something would show up that felt wrong. Not illegal, not even violent, just wrong, like it wasn't supposed to exist. Like someone had uploaded it, hoping no one would ever find it. One night, I came across a folder buried in a hidden directory. No title, no date, no tags. Just an icon of a single blinking eye. I clicked it. Inside were dozens of video files, all with the same name. User logged in. No numbers, no descriptions, just copies. Each file was exactly 6 minutes and 41 seconds long. I picked one at random. The video was of a room, dimly lit, bare concrete walls, a single chair in the center. The camera was static, fixed in the corner. A man walked into the frame. Average height, normal build, head shaved. He wore a plain t-shirt and jeans. He sat in the chair, looked at the camera, and said nothing. For the next 6 minutes, he just sat there, breathing, blinking, looking dead at the lens. Nothing happened, but something about it chilled me. The way he sat, perfectly still. The way his eyes didn't seem to move at all. The way the shadows behind him shifted just slightly when he wasn't moving. When the timer hit 6:41, the video ended. I closed the folder, but before I could back out, a new file appeared. Same name, same length. I hadn't touched anything. I hadn't refreshed. It just appeared. As I watched, another appeared. Then another. One every 5 seconds. I tried to close the window. It wouldn't close. My mouse stopped responding. I slammed the power button, held it down. The screen stayed on. The folder kept expanding. Suddenly, the videos stopped populating, and a new one appeared, different name. Now you're logged in. Against better judgment, I clicked it. The same room, the same camera. But this time, the man in the chair was gone. The chair was empty. I stared for a few seconds, waiting for something to happen. That's when I noticed the sound. Barely audible static, like something breathing through an old radio. The light in the room flickered slightly. And then, something moved behind the camera. I couldn't see it, not fully. Just a flicker of motion reflected in the concrete floor. The breathing grew louder. And then I realized the angle was wrong. The camera, it wasn't mounted in the corner anymore. It was eye level, from my perspective, from my room. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. Slowly, I turned to look at my own screen's reflection in the darkened window beside me. The same concrete room was still playing, but now the frame was shifting. Walking forward, no footsteps, just a smooth, gliding motion. And then the camera turned. I stopped breathing. Because I saw my desk, my monitor, me, sitting in the chair, staring into the screen. The feed was live. I jumped up, but on screen I didn't move. I was still there, still staring. I unplugged the monitor, shut the laptop, pulled every cord from the wall. Nothing helped. I blinked, and I was back in the room. Not my room, the room. The concrete walls surrounded me. The lights buzzed overhead. The chair was cold beneath me. I couldn't remember how I got there. I looked for the camera, but couldn't find it. There was no door, no windows, just walls that looked too tall and too tight, and a feeling like I was being watched. A screen flickered on across from me, mounted in the wall like a mirror. On it, a live feed of a bedroom I didn't recognize. Empty, silent, but the camera was moving. Someone was behind it, and whoever they were watching me. They spoke, not out loud, but through the speakers in my head like a whisper trapped behind bone. "You've been seen." I tried to speak, to move, but my body felt disconnected, like I was puppeteered by something else. More screens lit up along the walls. On one, a man screaming in a room just like mine, clawing at the concrete. On another, a girl pacing in a loop, bloodied knuckles, whispering something no one could hear. On the last, a child crying in a corner, arms over their head, rocking back and forth. We were all in the same place, all trapped. The screen flickered again, and I saw my apartment, empty now. Then came the message. Session transferred, and I understood. Whatever this was, it needed someone to log in, someone to open the door. The session always needed a user. And I had clicked, I had watched, I had opened it. That's when I saw movement in my apartment on the screen. Someone walking through my front door. Same build, same clothes, same face. It was me. No, it was wearing me. It looked into the webcam and smiled. It had taken my session. Now I was the file. Now I was the one in the chair. And someone else was about to press play. The screen glows faintly in the dim basement, casting long shadows across the concrete walls. My fingers hover over the keyboard, the air thick with the hum of my old computer tower. I've always been curious. Too curious, my mom used to say. That curiosity led me to late-night forums, to the edges of the internet where most people don't wander. Tonight, it's taken me somewhere I shouldn't be. The dark web. Not the sensationalized version you hear about in podcasts, but the real thing. A murky, uncharted ocean of code and secrets. I'd heard whispers about a site, a hidden page that wasn't supposed to exist. They called it the stream. No one knew what it was. Not really. Some said it was a live feed, others a game, others something far worse. The only thing everyone agreed on was that once you found it, there was no going back. I'd spent weeks chasing it, piecing together cryptic posts from anonymous users, downloading sketchy software, and learning how to mask my connection. Now, I'm here, staring at a blank black page with a single text box in the center. No instructions, no links, just a blinking cursor. My heart thumps in my chest, a mix of excitement and dread. I type the phrase I'd found buried in a forum thread. Open the stream. The screen flickers, and for a moment I think I've crashed my system. Then, a grainy video feed loads. It's a room, small, bare, with peeling wallpaper and a single chair in the center. The lighting is harsh, fluorescent, buzzing faintly through my headphones. There's no one in the frame, just the empty chair. But something feels wrong. The air in my basement grows colder. Or maybe it's just my imagination. I lean closer, squinting at the screen. The video is live. I can tell because of the faint timestamp in the corner, ticking away in real time. I don't know what I expected, but this isn't it. It's too quiet, too still. My mouse hovers over the browser's close button, but before I can click, something moves. A shadow passes across the frame, quick and blurry, like someone darted just out of sight. My breath catches. I rewind the feed. Thankfully, there's a slider. And watch again. There it is. A shape. Humanoid, but too fast to make out. My pulse races. This isn't a prank. This is real. I should close the tab, shut down my computer, and walk away. But I don't. I can't. Instead, I notice a chat window has appeared below the video. It's empty, except for one message. You're watching? Good. My stomach twists. I didn't sign up for anything, didn't enter a username, but somehow they know I'm here. I type into the chat, my fingers trembling. Who's there? No response. The video feed stays silent, the chair unmoving. Minutes pass, and I start to think it's a glitch, a looped recording meant to mess with people. Then, the chair scrapes across the floor. It's a sharp, grating sound, like nails on a chalkboard, and it moves on its own. No hands, no visible force, just the chair sliding to the edge of the frame. My mouth goes dry. I type again. What is this? This time, the chat responds instantly. Keep watching, you'll see. I want to look away, but my eyes are glued to the screen. The room in the feed starts to change. The wallpaper, once a faded yellow, begins to pulse, like it's breathing. The fluorescent light flickers, casting jagged shadows that seem to crawl across the walls. I tell myself it's just video effects, some kind of digital trick, but then I hear it. A low, guttural whisper. Not from my headphones, but from behind me. I spin around, heart pounding, but the basement is empty. Just the hum of the computer and the faint drip of a leaky pipe. I'm alone. I have to be. When I turn back to the screen, the chair is gone. In its place is a figure. It's human-shaped, but wrong. Too tall, too thin, its limbs bent at angles that don't make sense. Its face is obscured, a smudge of static where features should be. It's standing perfectly still, but I can feel it staring, not at the camera, but at me. My hands freeze on the keyboard. The chat window lights up again. You shouldn't have come here. I slam the laptop shut, my breath coming in shallow gasps. The basement feels smaller, the shadows deeper. I unplug the computer for good measure, yanking the cord from the wall. Silence. Blessed, heavy silence. But it doesn't last. A faint hum starts up again, not from the computer, but from somewhere else in the house. My phone, sitting on the table, lights up. I didn't touch it. The screen displays a single notification, an app I don't recognize, with an icon of a blank, featureless face. My thumb hovers over it, shaking. I know I shouldn't open it, but the same curiosity that brought me here takes over. I tap the icon. The app opens to a live feed, my living room. The angle is high, like it's shot from the corner of the ceiling. The couch, the coffee table, the half-empty glass of water I left there earlier. It's all there, crystal clear. My blood runs cold. I live alone. There are no cameras in my house. I stumble upstairs, heart hammering, and check every corner of the living room. Nothing. No cameras, no wires, no sign of anyone. When I look back at my phone, the feed has changed. It's still my living room, but now there's someone sitting on the couch. It's the figure from the stream, its static face turned toward the camera, toward me. I drop the phone, and it clatters to the floor. The screen doesn't crack, doesn't turn off. The figure is closer now, standing in the middle of the room. I back away, tripping over the coffee table, my mind racing. This isn't possible. I lock the doors. I check the windows. I'm alone. I grab a kitchen knife from the counter, clutching it like a lifeline, and creep toward the living room. It's empty. The couch is bare, the glass of water untouched, but my phone, still on the floor, shows something different. The figure is in the kitchen now, standing right where I am. I whirl around, knife raised, but there's nothing there. Just the hum of the fridge and the faint glow of the streetlight outside. My phone buzzes and I don't want to look, but I do. The screen shows the figure holding a knife. My knife. I drop it, the blade clattering against the tile. The feed cuts to black, and for a moment, I think it's over. Then my computer in the basement whirs to life. I didn't plug it back in. I don't want to go down there, but I have to. Each step feels like wading through quicksand, the air growing colder with every creak of the stairs. The basement is dark, except for the glow of the monitor. The stream is back, but now it's showing my basement. The angle is wrong, impossible, like the camera is floating above me. I can see myself on the screen, standing there, frozen, staring at the monitor. Behind me, just out of my peripheral vision, is the figure. I don't turn around. I can't. My body is locked in place, my breath shallow. The chat window pops up again. You can't leave now. The figure on the screen moves closer, its static face inches from the back of my head. I can feel it, not physically, but like a weight pressing down on my soul. The screen flickers and the feed changes again. It's not my basement anymore. It's a different room, one I've never seen, filled with people. They're all staring at their screens just like me, their faces pale, their eyes wide. The chat lights up with a new message. Welcome to the audience. The realization hits me like a punch. I'm not just watching the stream, I'm part of it. Everyone on that screen, everyone in that room, they're all trapped, just like me. The figure isn't in my house. It's in the stream, and the stream is everywhere. My phone buzzes again, and I don't want to look, but I do. It's a text from an unknown number. Look behind you. I don't. I won't. But the air grows heavier, the shadows darker, and I know deep down that something is standing right behind me. The screen flickers one last time, and the feed cuts to a new room. It's my bedroom. The figure is there, sitting on my bed, holding something in its hands. It's my phone. The same phone that's in my hand right now. I try to drop it, but my fingers won't let go. The figure tilts its head, and the static clears for just a moment, revealing a face. It's mine. Not a reflection, not a trick, but me, staring back with empty, hollow eyes. The chat window types on its own. You're live now. My phone vibrates, and the screen shows a new feed. Me, standing in the basement, holding the phone, the figure behind me. I hear footsteps upstairs, slow and deliberate, coming down the stairs. The door creaks open, and the basement light flickers. I don't look back. I can't. The stream is still playing, and the audience is watching. The glow of my laptop screen is the only light in my cramped apartment, cutting through the darkness like a blade. My fingers tremble as they hover over the keyboard, the weight of what I'm about to do pressing against my chest. I've always been drawn to the edges of things, places where the rules don't apply, where curiosity can lead you somewhere you can't come back from. Tonight, that edge is the dark web, not the mythologized version from horror stories, but the real thing, a labyrinth of hidden servers and encrypted whispers. I've been chasing rumors of a site called The Feed for weeks, piecing together fragments from shadowy forums and cryptic chats. They say it's a live stream, but no one agrees on what it shows. Some claim it's a window into something forbidden, others say it's a trap. All I know is that once you access it, you're marked. I've spent hours setting up Tor browser, VPN, a virtual machine to keep my tracks covered. Now I'm staring at a black page with a single input field. No instructions, just a blinking cursor daring me to proceed. My heart pounds as I type the phrase I found buried in a thread. Enter the feed. The screen stutters, and for a second, I think I've bricked my system. Then a video loads. It's grainy, low resolution, showing a small room with cracked plaster walls and a single wooden chair in the center. A bare bulb hangs from the ceiling, flickering faintly, casting jagged shadows. The audio is a low hum, like static mixed with distant breathing. I lean closer, my breath shallow. It's live. I can tell because of the subtle flicker of the bulb, the way the shadows shift. But there's nothing else, just the chair, the room, and that unsettling hum. I should close the tab. Every instinct screams it, but I don't. Instead, I notice a chat window pop up beside the video. It's empty except for one line. You're here. Good. My stomach lurches. I didn't log in, didn't share my IP, didn't give them anything. How do they know I'm watching? My fingers hover over the keyboard, hesitant, then type, "Who is this?" No response. The screen stays frozen on the empty room, the chair unmoving. Minutes drag by, and I start to think it's a dud, some elaborate troll. Then, the chair twitches. It's subtle, just a slight jerk, like someone nudged it. But there's no one there. My pulse spikes. I rewind the feed, dragging the slider back, but the chair is still like it never moved. I let it play again, and this time a shadow flickers across the wall. Fast, too fast to be human, gone before I can process it. I type again, my hands shaking. What's going on? The chat responds instantly. Keep watching. You'll understand. The words send a chill down my spine. I want to shut it down, but my eyes are locked on the screen. The room starts to change. The walls seem to ripple, like heat rising off pavement, and the bulb's flicker grows erratic, plunging the room into brief bursts of darkness. In one of those flashes, something appears in the chair. A figure. It's humanoid, but wrong. Its limbs too long, its head tilted at an unnatural angle. Its face is a blur, like a smudged photograph, but I can feel its gaze boring through the screen straight into me. My apartment feels colder, the air heavier. I hear a faint creak from the hallway, but I live alone, and the door is locked. I force myself to look away from the screen, scanning the shadows of my apartment. Nothing. Just the hum of the laptop and the distant drone of city traffic outside. When I look back, the figure is gone, but the chair is turned, facing the camera directly. The chat lights up. You can't leave now. My heart hammers. I slam the laptop shut, my breath coming in gasps. The room is silent, but the silence feels wrong, like it's waiting for something. Then, my phone buzzes on the coffee table. I didn't touch it. The screen lights up, showing an app I don't recognize, an icon of a blank, featureless face. My hands shake as I pick it up. I know I should ignore it, but that same cursed curiosity pulls me in. I tap the icon, and the app opens to a live feed. It's my apartment, the exact view of my living room, from a high angle near the ceiling. The couch, the coffee table, the empty pizza box I left out, it's all there, perfectly clear. My blood runs cold. I don't have cameras. I live alone. I stumble to my feet, checking every corner, every shelf. There's nothing. No lenses, no wires, no sign of intrusion. But when I look back at my phone, the feed has changed. The figure from the feed is there, sitting on my couch, its blurred face tilted toward the camera. I drop the phone, and it hits the floor with a dull thud. The screen doesn't crack, doesn't go dark. The figure is closer now, standing in the middle of the room, its head cocked like it's listening. I grab a kitchen knife from the counter, clutching it tightly, and creep toward the living room. It's empty. The couch is bare, the pizza box untouched. But my phone shows something else. The figure is in the kitchen now, holding a knife. My knife. I let go, and the blade clatters to the floor. The feed cuts to black, and for a moment I think it's over. Then my laptop whirs back to life. I didn't open it. The screen is on, showing the feed again. But now it's my apartment. The angle is impossible, like the camera is floating above me. I can see myself on the screen, standing in the living room, holding my phone, my face pale and eyes wide. Behind me, just out of sight, is the figure. Its blurred face seems to pulse, like it's trying to form features. My legs feel like lead, but I force myself to move, backing toward the door. The chat window types on its own. You're part of it now. The words burn into my brain. I try to open the door, but the knob won't turn. It's not locked. It's stuck, like something is holding it from the other side. The feed shifts again, showing a different room, one I don't recognize. It's filled with people, dozens of them, all staring at screens. Their faces are blank, their eyes hollow, like they've been watching for too long. The chat lights up. Welcome to the viewers. My stomach drops. I'm not just watching the feed, I'm in it. Everyone on that screen, everyone in that room, they're trapped, just like me. The figure isn't in my apartment, it's in the feed, and the feed is everywhere. My phone buzzes again, and I don't want to look, but I do. It's a text from an unknown number. Look behind you. I don't. I won't. But the air grows thicker, the shadows sharper, and I know something is there. The laptop screen flickers, and the feed changes to my bedroom. The figure is sitting on my bed, holding my phone, the same phone that's in my hand. Its head tilts, and for a split second, the blur clears. It's my face staring back, but not me. The eyes are wrong, empty, like black holes. The chat types again, "You're live now." My phone vibrates, and the screen shows a new feed. Me, standing in my living room, holding the phone, the figure behind me. I hear footsteps in the hallway, slow and deliberate, coming closer. The door creaks and the lights flicker. I don't look back. I can't. The feed is still playing, and the viewers are watching. The rain had started hours ago, and by now it wasn't falling anymore. It was hissing. Against the roof, the windows, the soaked earth outside, it whispered low and relentless. The kind of night where the world seemed to vanish past the front porch. Sarah gripped the steering wheel tighter as her headlights slid across the crooked mailbox, barely visible through the mist. The old cabin loomed just beyond the gravel drive, sagging slightly under the weight of time and weather. She cut the engine. The sudden silence was deafening. The place belonged to her late uncle, died alone. Heart attack, supposedly. She hadn't seen him in years, but she remembered his voice. Always muttering things under his breath, staring too long at shadows, warning her to lock her windows at night no matter where she lived. She had only come to clean it out, maybe stay the night, maybe not. The front door creaked open without resistance. Inside, it smelled of wood, dust, and something else. Something faint, like soil, but not quite. The walls were lined with peeling wallpaper and old photographs. Faces stared out, all blurred from moisture and time, their expressions unreadable. She dropped her bag and flicked on the hallway light. It buzzed, flickered, then held. The place hadn't changed much. Same worn rug, same crooked grandfather clock that didn't tick anymore. She found her way to the back room, the one her uncle always kept locked. It wasn't locked now. The room was empty. No furniture, no boxes. Just bare floorboards and a dark spot in the center where the wood had warped in a circle. It looked like something had been sitting there for a long time. Heavy, unmoved. She stepped inside and immediately felt colder. The rest of the house was drafty, but this was different. This was still, as if the room were holding its breath. She didn't stay long. That night, thunder rolled in over the hills, low and slow. Sarah tried to sleep in the upstairs bedroom, the one with the slanted ceiling and the single window, but something kept waking her up. Not sounds exactly, more like the absence of them. No wind, no creaks, just the deep, smothering quiet of a house waiting for something. She sat up and listened. Then she heard it, a single thump, somewhere downstairs. Not a creak, not a groan, a thump heavy, deliberate. She held her breath, straining to hear more. Nothing followed. She told herself it was the storm shifting something. A fallen branch, maybe. But still, she didn't move for a long time. Didn't even blink. Eventually, she lay back down, but she didn't sleep. Morning was no comfort. The sky stayed the same wet gray, and the house seemed even more silent than before. She decided to pack up early, just get what she needed and leave before dark. In the attic, she found her uncle's journal, buried under a broken floorboard. It was wrapped in cloth and tied shut with string. The pages inside were yellowed and brittle, the handwriting uneven and frantic. The first few entries were ordinary, notes about repairs, weather, the neighbor's dog. Then things turned strange. He wrote of footsteps in the hall at night, furniture found moved in the morning. He wrote of a presence in the house, something that watched but never showed itself. And then he wrote this: "It's not the house, it's under it. It waits until dark and then it listens. When I speak, it remembers. It doesn't forget names, it doesn't forget faces, it only waits." Sarah shut the journal. Her hands were shaking. She told herself it was nonsense. Old man paranoia, isolation playing tricks. But then she remembered the warped spot in the floor, the way the temperature dropped when she stood over it. She decided to look again. The back room was darker now, even with the lights on. She knelt over the spot. The wood was dry but stained. She tapped it, hollow. She fetched a crowbar from the shed and pried up one of the planks. Beneath was a small, square hole lined with stone. Not brick. Stone, rough, old, and blackened. The hole went deeper than it should have, too deep for a crawl space. The air rising from it was ice cold and still smelled of soil, but now she could tell something else was mixed in. Something sharp, like copper, like blood. She dropped the plank back in place and didn't go near that room again. She left that afternoon, drove back to her apartment and told herself she'd return with help. Someone to go through the place with her, maybe even sell it. But that night she dreamed of the cabin. She saw it from above, swallowed by woods that hadn't been there before. All the windows were black. Something moved inside, just beyond the glass, but she couldn't see its shape, only its eyes. Not glowing, just watching, remembering. When she woke, her phone was ringing. No number, no sound, just static. She stared at it until the call ended on its own. After that, the noises began. It started with soft knocks at the base of her bedroom door, only at night. Only once she had turned off the light. Then came the whispers. Not words exactly, more like syllables and breath, repeating, growing louder with each night. She stopped sleeping. Her apartment began to feel wrong, smaller, darker. Mirrors showed movement that wasn't hers. Her reflection sometimes didn't match her posture. One night, she tore up her bedroom carpet. She didn't know why, she just had to. And beneath the floorboards, she found it, stone. Just like the cabin. It didn't make sense. She didn't live anywhere near there, but the stone was real. Rough, blackened, and cold. She left that night. No bags, no phone, just keys and the clothes she wore. She drove for hours, didn't stop, didn't turn around. Eventually, she ran out of road and had to rest. A motel in the middle of nowhere. No guests. The clerk didn't speak. Just handed her a key without looking at her. She locked herself in the room and sat on the floor until morning. But morning didn't come. The sun never rose. She looked outside and saw only trees. Endless, wrong-looking trees. The kind that twist in ways trees shouldn't. The kind that whisper without wind. Then came the knock. Not at the door. From under the floor. 3 times, slow, heavy. She backed away and the journal fell from her coat pocket. She didn't remember taking it, but there it was. Opened to the last page. The writing was different. Not her uncle's anymore. It knows you now. It wore his voice. Now it wears yours. The door creaked open behind her, but no one stood there. Only the hallway, stretching too far, turning where it shouldn't, lined with pictures of her, aged and blurred, all staring out with no eyes. She ran, down the hallway that didn't end, through doors that looped, past windows that showed only dirt. She screamed, but the sound didn't come out, and then she woke up. In the cabin, sitting in the back room, the floorboards sealed, the journal gone, the phone ringing, no number, just her voice whispering her own name. The road had narrowed long before the trees thickened, but she hadn't noticed. There were no signs anymore, no mile markers, and the GPS had gone silent long ago. Still, she kept driving. The invitation had been handwritten, no return address, just a name she hadn't heard in years, and a note that read, "You should see the house one last time." She hadn't planned to go back. Not there, not to the place where everything started. The house stood at the end of the gravel road, exactly as she remembered, though the paint had faded and the porch sagged. It looked tired, like it had been waiting too long for someone to return. She stepped out of the car, shut the door softly, and listened. The forest behind her didn't make a sound. No birds, no wind. Just that strange, heavy silence that seemed to press in closer the longer she stood still. She walked to the door and knocked once, though she knew no one would answer. When she tried the handle, it turned easily. The door creaked open, slow and heavy, revealing the same narrow hallway lined with framed photos she didn't want to look at. The air inside was stale, like a room that had been sealed for years, but it wasn't dusty. Everything was exactly in place. A glass of water sat on the hallway table, still half full. The rug was flattened neatly, as if someone had just vacuumed. She stepped inside, heart tightening. The floorboards groaned beneath her, but the sound was swallowed fast, like the walls didn't want echoes. She called out, no answer. There was no reason to explore. She only needed a quick look, maybe some closure, and then she could leave. But something tugged at her. A memory, maybe. Or something worse. She walked down the hall and opened the first door on the left. The living room was untouched. The fireplace was cold, the windows shut, the furniture exactly where it had always been. But something felt off. She couldn't say what at first, until she noticed the picture on the far wall. It was new. It showed her, standing in the hallway, from behind. She turned quickly, but no one was there. She stepped back into the hallway and stared at the empty space behind her, the air suddenly too warm. She opened the second door. The kitchen. It was clean. Impossibly clean. The fridge hummed quietly and the faucet dripped a slow, deliberate beat. A plate sat on the counter, a single slice of bread resting on it. Mold bloomed across the crust like a dark flower. She turned to leave, but the sound of the dripping had changed. It was faster now, urgent. She looked back at the faucet. The water was red. She didn't move for a long moment. The silence returned, thicker now, louder. She backed away slowly, closed the kitchen door, and stood in the hallway, heart hammering. Then she heard the footsteps. Above her, slow, dragging. The weight of something that didn't care if she heard it coming. She should have left then, should have run, but her feet didn't move. The staircase groaned with each step she took upward. The banister was warm under her hand, almost like flesh. She reached the landing and looked down the hallway. The door at the end was open slightly, a crack, just enough to see the edge of a bed. That room, she remembered it. She approached carefully, every step aching with weight. The door resisted at first, then gave in with a shiver. The room beyond was dark. Heavy curtains blocked the light, and the smell was stronger here. Not rot, not mold, something older. She reached for the curtain and pulled it aside. The window was bricked up from the outside. She turned, and the door slammed shut. She ran to it, twisted the knob. It opened easily. The hallway beyond was empty again. But now something was different. The pictures on the wall, they'd changed. Every photo now showed her, not as she was, but as she had been. Years ago, in childhood, teenage years, college. Moments she'd forgotten. But the background in every photo was the same. This hallway. She backed away, refusing to look at the frames any longer. Her breathing quickened, and she ran back down the stairs. At the bottom, the house had changed again. There were no windows. The front door was gone. The light bulbs were all dead. She wasn't sure how long she stood there before a voice spoke. Not aloud, inside her head, downstairs. She didn't want to go. Every part of her screamed to resist, but her body betrayed her. The door to the basement opened as she approached it, revealing a steep set of stairs that seemed to disappear into smoke. She stepped down. Each stair creaked, but no echo followed. The air grew colder, thicker, harder to breathe. She reached the bottom, and the light from above faded entirely. Then the matches lit on their own. 1, 2, 3. Flickering flames, floating midair, revealing the basement room. Stone walls. No furniture, just carvings. Deep, rough gouges in the walls, symbols she didn't understand, all pointing toward the far corner. There was a mirror there, tall, cracked, covered in dust. She walked toward it, drawn by something she couldn't explain. Her reflection didn't move. It watched her, then smiled, and whispered, "You're almost ready." She stumbled back, but the mirror cracked louder, splitting across the middle. The reflection stepped forward, but not into the room, into her. The pain was instant, not physical. Deeper, like something tearing through her thoughts, rewriting her memories. She saw flashes, her parents whispering to strangers, rituals, a crib surrounded by candles, her standing outside the house as a child, staring at the windowless attic, whispering words she never understood. The invitation hadn't been sent by anyone. It had been drawn. By her own hand, the thing inside the mirror had always been waiting, and now it had crossed. She woke up on the floor, the basement cold and empty. But now the house felt different, warmer, familiar. She walked back upstairs. The front door had returned. Light poured in. She stepped outside. Birds chirped. The wind rustled the trees. Everything was normal again. Her phone buzzed. She had service. The message read, "Thanks for letting me in." She didn't remember walking back to the car, or starting the engine, or driving the whole way home. But days passed, then weeks, and then the dream started. Always the same, the house, the mirror, the thing watching from the other side, not trapped anymore, just waiting. One morning, she found her reflection smiling at her before she did, and then her voice changed, slightly, just enough that friends stopped calling, strangers stepped away. Her shadow sometimes moved on its own, and now she walks back toward the house every night in her sleep. Because it's not over, it's only beginning. The invitation was never for her. It was for what was inside her, and it wants more. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows of the old cabin like a restless spirit clawing to get in. I sat by the fireplace, the only source of warmth in the drafty room, my breath visible in the flickering light. The storm had come out of nowhere, stranding me in this isolated place, miles from the nearest town. I'd been hiking, seeking solitude after a brutal year. But now, alone in the cabin I'd stumbled upon, solitude felt like a weight pressing down on my chest. The fire crackled, spitting embers onto the hearth, and I tried to focus on the book in my lap. But every creak of the floorboards, every groan of the wind made my heart lurch. I told myself it was just the storm, just the isolation playing tricks on my mind. But then I heard it, a low, deliberate knock at the door. My body froze, the book slipping from my hands. The knock came again, slow and measured, as if whoever was out there knew I was listening. I stood, my legs trembling, and crept toward the window. Peering through the frost-covered glass, I saw nothing but swirling snow and the faint outline of trees bending in the wind. No one could be out there. Not in this blizzard. I waited, holding my breath. But the knock didn't come again. Maybe it was a branch, I thought, or ice falling from the roof. I forced myself to sit back down, pulling the blanket tighter around my shoulders. But the air felt different now, heavier, like the cabin itself was holding its breath with me. Then, from somewhere inside the cabin, a floorboard creaked. Not the random groan of an old house settling, but a distinct heavy step. My blood ran cold. I was alone. I'd checked every corner of this place when I arrived. 2 small rooms, a tiny kitchen, and a bathroom with a rusted sink. There was no one else here. I grabbed the poker from the fireplace, its iron cold in my grip, and stood, my eyes darting to the shadows in the corners. "Hello?" I called, my voice barely above a whisper. No answer, just the wind screaming outside. I took a step toward the hallway, the poker raised, my pulse hammering in my ears. Another creak, this time from the bedroom. I moved slowly, each step deliberate, the floor icy beneath my socks. The bedroom door was ajar, just as I'd left it. I pushed it open, the hinges squealing, and scanned the room. Empty. The bed was untouched, the window locked tight. But the air felt wrong, like someone had just been there, their presence lingering like a faint perfume. I turned back to the living room, convincing myself I was imagining things. Stress, exhaustion, the storm. It was all messing with my head. I sat back down, clutching the poker, and tried to focus on the fire. That's when I noticed the photograph on the mantel. It hadn't been there before. I was sure of it. The frame was old, its edges chipped, and the glass was smudged with grime. I stood, my legs unsteady, and picked it up. The photo showed a family. 2 parents, a young girl and a boy, all smiling stiffly, their eyes wide and unblinking. The background was this very cabin, the same cracked walls, the same fireplace. But something was off. The girl's smile wasn't a smile at all, it was a grimace, her lips stretched too tight, her eyes pleading. I set the photo down, my hands shaking, and that's when I heard it again. A knock. This time, it was coming from inside the house. My heart stopped. The sound was unmistakable, a slow, deliberate rap against wood coming from the kitchen. I gripped the poker and moved toward the doorway, my breath shallow. The kitchen was dark, the single bulb overhead flickering faintly. The knocking stopped as I entered, but the silence was worse. It felt alive, watching me. I scanned the room, my eyes landing on the pantry door. It was closed, but the handle was twitching, as if something on the other side was turning it, testing it. I wanted to run, to bolt out into the storm and take my chances, but my feet were rooted to the floor. The handle stopped moving, and for a moment, there was nothing but the sound of my own ragged breathing. Then, with a slow, agonizing creak, the pantry door began to open. I raised the poker, my arms trembling, ready to swing at whatever came through. But nothing did. The pantry was empty, just shelves of dusty cans and jars, their labels faded. I stepped closer, my flashlight shaking in my hand, and that's when I saw it. A small, child-sized handprint on the inside of the door, smudged in something dark and sticky. I stumbled back, my mind racing. I hadn't seen that handprint when I checked the cabin earlier. I would have noticed it. I slammed the door shut and backed away, my eyes darting to every corner of the kitchen. The bulb flickered again, then went out completely, plunging the room into darkness. I fumbled for the flashlight, clicking it on, the beam cutting through the shadows. Something moved in the corner of my vision, a quick, jerky motion, like a figure darting out of sight. I swung the light around, but there was nothing. Just the empty kitchen, the wind howling outside, and the oppressive weight of the silence inside. I backed into the living room, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. The fire was dying now, the flames low, casting long, twisted shadows across the walls. I sat down, clutching the poker and flashlight, and told myself to stay calm. I'd leave at first light, storm or no storm. I just had to make it through the night. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt slippery, like the cabin was warping my sense of it. I kept the flashlight on, sweeping it across the room every few seconds, half expecting to catch something lurking in the corners. The photograph on the mantel seemed to glow in the dim light, the family's faces more distorted each time I looked. The girl's eyes seemed to follow me, her grimace wider, more desperate. I wanted to throw the photo into the fire, but I couldn't bring myself to touch it again. Then, from the bedroom, I heard a soft, rhythmic tapping, like fingernails on glass. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. The bedroom window. Something was out there. I forced myself to stand, my legs like jelly, and crept toward the bedroom. The tapping grew louder, more insistent as I approached. I reached the door and peered inside, the flashlight shaking in my hand. The window was frosted over, but I could see a shape outside, a dark silhouette against the swirling snow. It was small, child-sized, and it was tapping on the glass with slow, deliberate precision. I wanted to scream, to run, but I couldn't move. The shape pressed closer, its outline sharpening, and I saw it, a face, pale and gaunt, with hollow eyes staring straight at me. It was the girl from the photograph. I stumbled back, the flashlight slipping from my hand and clattering to the floor. The tapping stopped, and the silence was deafening. I scrambled to pick up the light, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold it. When I shone it back at the window, the shape was gone. But the glass was clear now. No frost, no snow, and there was a single, smudged handprint on the outside. I ran to the living room, slamming the bedroom door behind me, and barricaded it with a chair. My mind was screaming, telling me to get out, but the storm was still raging, and I had nowhere to go. I sat by the fire, the poker in one hand, the flashlight in the other, and waited. The cabin felt smaller now, the walls closing in, the shadows alive with movement. I kept my eyes on the photograph, convinced it was the key to whatever was happening. I forced myself to pick it up again, turning it over in my hands. On the back, scrawled in faded ink, was a single sentence. "They never leave." My stomach dropped. I dropped the photo, and it landed face up, the family's faces staring at me. But now, the girl wasn't smiling or grimacing. Her face was blank, her eyes black pits, and she was holding something, a knife. A low, guttural laugh came from the kitchen. It wasn't human. It was too deep, too hollow, like it was coming from the walls themselves. I stood, the poker raised, and backed toward the front door. I didn't care about the storm anymore. I had to get out. But as I reached for the handle, the door swung open on its own, revealing nothing but darkness and snow. And then I saw her, the girl, standing just beyond the porch, her head tilted at an unnatural angle, her eyes black and empty. She didn't move, didn't speak, just stared. I slammed the door shut, my hands shaking so badly I could barely turn the lock. The laugh came again, closer now from the hallway. I turned, the flashlight beam slicing through the darkness, and there she was, standing at the edge of the living room. Not the girl from outside, but another figure, taller, its face hidden in shadow. It moved toward me, slow and deliberate, its footsteps silent. I swung the poker, but it passed through the figure like smoke. The air grew colder, the fire flickering out completely, and the room was plunged into darkness. I don't know how long I sat there, curled up in the corner, the flashlight dead, the poker useless in my hands. The cabin was silent now, but I could feel them, watching, waiting. The storm had stopped, and the first light of dawn crept through the windows. I stumbled to my feet, my body aching, and ran for the door. I didn't look back, didn't stop until I reached the nearest town, my mind a blur of fear and exhaustion. I told myself it was over, that I'd escaped. But when I got home, I found a photograph on my kitchen table, A family I didn't recognize, standing in front of a cabin I'd never forget. And in the corner, barely visible, was me, staring out from the background, my face blank, my eyes black. I never should have gone looking. It started with boredom, the kind that creeps in slowly when everything in life feels muted. The same job, the same room, the same faces. I needed something different, something that felt real. I read about the dark web in a forum I used to visit late at night. Not just the usual rumors and urban legends, but testimonials. People talking about how they'd found the real thing. Not drugs or fake IDs. Experiences. Rooms you could enter. Live feeds you could watch. Even games you could play. They said there was a site that didn't have a name. It didn't need one. It was invitation only. But if you looked long enough, if you followed the right breadcrumbs, it found you. I didn't believe it, but I was curious. And curiosity, I would learn, is a dangerous drug. It started with a chat room. Dead simple. Black background. White text. No usernames. No logins. Just a stream of anonymous people dropping messages. Most of it was garbage. Static. But every so often someone would post a phrase. Always the same one. Do you want to see something real? At first I ignored it. Then I started noticing the same phrase in different places. Other forums, old comment threads, even in the code of a junk website. It started feeling intentional. One night, after another sleepless spiral of clicking and decoding, I responded. Yes, show me. My screen flickered. Not like a glitch, like a pulse almost. Then a video window opened. No player, no controls, just the feed. It was a room. Unlit except for the harsh glow of a single bulb swinging from the ceiling. A woman sat in a chair, tied at the wrists and ankles. Her eyes were wide, alert, terrified. She looked directly at the camera. There was no sound. I watched, frozen. For a minute, then 10. She didn't move except to flinch whenever the light swung closer. Then something moved in the background, something just outside the reach of the light. It was slow, almost deliberate. I couldn't make out a shape, just shadows bleeding forward like smoke. Suddenly, the feed cut to black. I stared at the screen, waiting for it to come back. It didn't. But the chat room did. A single message blinked into existence. You watched, now you're part of it. I thought it was a prank. Some kind of psychological game, but I couldn't shake it. Over the next few days, things started to feel wrong. My phone rang, but no one was on the other end. Emails started disappearing from my inbox. I saw shadows in corners that disappeared when I turned to look. At night, I began hearing tapping from inside the walls. I tried to sleep. I tried to forget. Then one night, the feed came back. No warning this time. Just a silent window, suddenly appearing on my screen. Same room. Different person. This time, it was a man, maybe in his 30s. His mouth was gagged, but his eyes screamed louder than anything else. The same light swayed above. The same slow-moving darkness crept in behind him. Again, the feed cut to black. Again, the message came. You're part of it now. This time, something was different. I tried to close the window. Couldn't. I tried to shut down my computer. Nothing. Even pulling the plug did nothing. The screen stayed on, humming with a faint static. I left the room. When I came back, there was a new message on the screen. You left. They didn't. The next morning, I found scratches on my bedroom door. Long, deliberate, claw-like marks. My door had been closed, locked. I live alone. I tried to tell someone, a friend, a coworker. They thought I was losing it, said I needed sleep, said I needed help. Maybe they were right. I destroyed my computer, took a hammer to the tower, burned the remains in a garbage can behind my apartment. I bought a new phone, changed my accounts, scrubbed every trace of my online identity. For a while it stopped, until a week later, when I got an envelope in the mail. No return address, no stamp. Inside was a single flash drive. I should have thrown it away. I plugged it in. There were only 2 files on it. One was a video, the other was a folder labeled You. I opened the video. It was footage of my bedroom, taken from the ceiling, from an angle that didn't exist. The footage was from the night I destroyed my computer. It showed me sleeping, and it showed something else, in the corner of the room, just behind the closet door. Watching. I paused the video, stared at the shape in the shadows. It didn't move, it didn't blink, but it was there. Shaking, I opened the folder labeled You. Inside were photos, hundreds of them, of me, sleeping, eating, walking down the street, some from places I didn't even remember being. Each photo was labeled with a date. The earliest one was from years ago. The most recent was from that morning. I ripped the drive out, smashed it with a rock outside, and dumped it in a river. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. That was when the dream started. I'd wake up in that room, the one from the feed, tied to the chair, gagged, always alone at first, always watching the light above me swing. Then I'd hear the scraping, the dragging of something heavy across the floor, closer, louder, but I'd always wake up before I saw what it was. Until I didn't. One night, the dream didn't end. I sat in the chair, paralyzed, and the light went out. Total darkness. Then breath on my neck, cold fingers tracing my scalp, and a voice, whispering the same words over and over. You watched, you watched, you watched. When I woke, there were bruises on my wrists. The next day, a neighbor knocked on my door, said they'd heard screaming. I tried to laugh it off, but they kept staring at something behind me. I turned around, nothing there. They never came back. I tried moving. I tried staying in hotels, sleeping in my car. The feed followed me, popping up on mirrors, reflected in windows. Always that room. Always a new person. Always that same slow darkness seeping in. Then came the twist. One day I recognized the person in the chair. It was my boss. He looked confused, frightened. He stared at the camera like he knew someone was watching, like he knew it was me. The next day, he didn't show up to work. The day after, his office was empty. No explanation. Just gone. Then another face. Someone from the coffee shop I used to visit. Then a girl I went to school with. Then a man I'd passed on the street a week earlier. Each one stared into the camera with the same question in their eyes. Why me? And I had no answer. I stopped going outside, stopped speaking to people. I figured if I didn't interact, no one else would be pulled in. I figured the horror would stop with me. I was wrong. A new feed popped up. No chair, no light, just a hallway, empty at first. Then I heard footsteps. Slow, barefoot. Something coming toward the camera. Closer, closer. Then the screen cut to black. A final message appeared. You turned away, now it's your turn. That night, I woke up in a different room. Real, not a dream. My hands tied, the bulb swinging overhead, a camera in the corner. I wasn't alone. There was someone else in the shadows, breathing, waiting, and somewhere I knew someone was watching me. I never believed the dark web was real. Not really. I thought it was just a myth, a place for tech geeks and wannabe hackers to scare each other with stories of red rooms, hitmen for hire, or cursed videos. But that was before I went looking, before I opened the wrong door. It started out of boredom. I was stuck in my tiny apartment, barely sleeping, slowly wasting away under the weight of insomnia. Late one night, or maybe early morning, I fell down an internet rabbit hole. I watched everything there was on regular sites, strange surveillance videos, unexplained audio clips, but none of it scratched the itch. I wanted something darker, something real. That's when I heard about a gateway browser. It wasn't illegal to download, not technically, just hidden, hard to access, and the people talking about it online always ended their comments the same way. Be careful what you click. I should have listened. At first, it was what you'd expect. Pages full of overpriced stolen credit cards, fake passports, nothing that interested me. Then I found a forum. It had no name, just a black background with white text. You're not supposed to be here. Below that, a single blinking prompt. Enter. I hesitated. I still don't know why I typed yes. The page loaded instantly. No graphics, just a list of threads. Most were in code, but one stood out. It was titled The Mirror Protocol. I clicked it, half expecting a virus. Instead, I found a string of comments. Some deleted, others written in panicked bursts. The first one read, "It knows I watched. Don't answer your door, not even once." Another read, "It copies you, it learns, it waits." There was a download link at the bottom of the thread, a plain file, no name, no size listed. Against every instinct I had, I clicked it. The file installed in seconds. It didn't open anything. But later that night, my laptop camera turned on by itself. I stared at the glowing green dot, frozen. I covered it with tape, shut the lid, and walked away. I told myself it was a glitch, just bad timing. I didn't sleep. The next day, weird things started happening. My phone rang, but the screen was black. I picked it up, and I heard my own voice whispering. Not a recording, not something I remembered saying, just me, distorted, whispering things I didn't understand. I smashed the phone, bought a new one. Same thing happened again. Then came the videos. I woke up to find a file on my desktop titled You. I hadn't put it there. I opened it. The video showed me sitting at my desk, asleep, though I never remembered sleeping. The footage was smooth, clean, but I had never set up a camera. The next day there were more videos, each one from a different angle. One was from the closet, another from behind the mirror, always watching, always in silence. I tried wiping the laptop, factory reset, the works. The videos came back anyway. Except now, they showed things I didn't remember doing. Me leaving the apartment at night. Me standing perfectly still outside, staring at nothing for hours. One clip showed me unlocking the door for someone I couldn't see, except I hadn't left my apartment, not once. I set up motion sensors, bought one of those doorbell cameras, checked the footage every hour. Most nights there was nothing. Then one night, I saw it. The figure was thin, too thin, pale, wearing my clothes. It walked like me, moved like me, but not quite right. Too stiff, too smooth. It came up to the camera and stared into it for 7 minutes. Its eyes never blinked. Its mouth stayed open the entire time, like it was trying to breathe through a memory of lungs. I didn't sleep after that. I locked every door, every window, and still heard footsteps. Not heavy, but slow, precise. I called the police. They searched the place, found nothing. Said maybe it was a prank. Maybe I was working too much. Then I got a call from a number that matched mine exactly. When I answered, there was no sound. Just breathing. My breathing. Perfectly mirrored. I hung up and tried to block the number. My phone crashed. I ran to my bathroom and stared at the mirror, not sure what I was expecting. My reflection looked normal, but then I tilted my head left. It tilted right, opposite, off sync. I raised my hand slowly. The reflection didn't follow. It stared at me, then smiled. I smashed the mirror, but when I looked down at the shards, the reflection in each one still stared back, and every single version of me had a different expression. One cried, one laughed, one looked terrified, and one was walking closer. I moved out that night, slept in my car. I left the laptop, the phone, everything. I didn't want any trace of it. I bought a cheap flip phone, paid in cash, no internet, no camera. For a while, I thought I was free. Then I found a photo under the windshield wiper one morning. It was a picture of me asleep in my car. There was no note, no signature, just the image, perfectly centered. And behind the window of the car, barely visible in the dark, was a face. My face, but it wasn't asleep. I left the city, rented a small cabin in the woods. No phone service, no Wi-Fi. I told no one where I was going. For the first time in weeks, I started to relax. I made a fire, ate real food, slept a full night, until I heard knocking. I sat up in bed, heart hammering. It was past midnight. The knocking came again, slow, even, 4 times. I didn't move. Then a voice, my voice, came from the other side of the door. "Let me in." I stayed silent. The voice spoke again, softer. "I'm cold, I'm tired, please, just let me in." I backed away from the door, heart pounding. Then came another knock, louder, faster, more urgent. I ran to the window, looked out into the pitch black. There was nothing there. No footprints, no person, just snow. But then, on the inside of the window, a handprint appeared, pressed from the inside. I turned. The door was still closed, every lock still fastened. The knocking started again, this time from behind me, from inside the cabin. I don't remember much after that. Just screams. Mine and others. The power went out, the fire died, and something moved in the dark. When I woke up, I was alone, or I thought I was, until I saw the footprints, bare feet, dozens of them, not outside, but all around the bed. I packed what little I had and left, hiked until I hit a road, hitched a ride from a trucker who didn't ask questions. I stayed in a motel off the highway. It had no mirrors, no TVs. I kept the lights on even during the day. Last night, I checked my new phone just to see if it worked. There was a notification. One new video, no sender, no title, just the thumbnail, me sleeping. I played it. In the video, I'm lying in bed. Behind me, something crawls out of the wall. It looks like me, but its limbs are too long. Its head turns all the way around. It leans close and whispers something into my ear. I paused the video, zoomed in, turned the volume all the way up, played it again. What it whispered was clear. You shouldn't have watched. And now wherever I go, it follows. I've destroyed every screen, every device, and still I see it, in reflections, in puddles, in shadows. Every time I blink, I feel it getting closer. I can't sleep anymore because when I do, it dreams with me. And sometimes, I wake up still dreaming. If you're hearing this, do one thing. Don't go looking for it. Don't try to find the file. Don't follow the links. Don't download anything. And if your reflection ever smiles before you do, run! I was always curious about the things that lived beneath the surface of the internet, not the obvious stuff. Conspiracies, odd forums, or the usual videos that made the rounds on creepy threads. I wanted the real hidden web, the place people whispered about but never described, the place they warned you not to look for. It started when I joined a private online community, a group that shared rumors of dark websites that only appeared at certain times, or only when you performed a precise sequence of actions. One post stood out. It was short. No images, no details, just this. If you find the door, don't knock. If it knocks back, don't open it. That night, I decided to try. I downloaded an old browser someone mentioned. It wasn't easy to install. Everything about it felt off. The menus lagged, the design looked unfinished, and it kept asking strange questions before launching. But eventually, I got it running. There was no homepage, just a blinking cursor. You had to know where to go. I typed in a random string of characters I'd seen on a screenshot and hit enter. A black screen loaded. A few seconds passed before a white message appeared. Welcome to the other side. Below it, a question. Do you consent? I stared at it for a long time, then I typed yes. That was the last normal moment of my life. The screen went dark. Then a video began to play. At first, it was static. Then a figure emerged. It stood in a hallway. No face, no eyes, just a smooth, skin-like surface where its face should be. It didn't move, didn't speak. The hallway looked familiar. As the image shifted slightly, I realized why. It was my apartment hallway. I stared, heart pounding. The thing just stood there, motionless, in complete silence. The video had no controls, no timestamp, and no way to close it. I reached to shut the laptop. The screen blinked. Now the figure was closer to the door. My door. I jumped up and rushed to the peephole. Nothing. I went back to the computer. The figure was gone. A single message appeared. Thank you for letting me in. My laptop shut off. For a long while, I didn't move. Then, almost laughing at myself, I told myself it was a prank. Some elaborate visual trick, maybe even spyware. I ran antivirus checks, reset the system, deleted everything. The laptop seemed clean, but later that night I started hearing the noises. They weren't loud, just faint rhythmic tapping. Sometimes on the walls, sometimes under the bed, always when I was alone, always when I tried to sleep. Then came the messages. They weren't emails or texts, just handwritten notes that appeared in my apartment, on the bathroom mirror, inside the fridge, on the ceiling above my bed, each one in my handwriting. They said things like, "I'm still watching. You're not alone. Do not look behind you." I started recording everything, set up cameras in every room, checked the footage constantly. Most of it was normal. Then I found something I couldn't explain. A short clip from one of the living room cameras, just 10 seconds long. In it, I walk into frame, but I never did. This version of me stands in front of the camera, stares directly into it, tilts its head slowly, then smiles. The smile doesn't look like mine. It's too wide, too calm. Then the video cuts out. The timestamp matches when I was asleep in bed. I started sleeping with the lights on. I covered every mirror, took down every reflective surface. But that didn't help. Because soon, I wasn't just seeing things on screens. I was seeing it in the corner of my eyes, in doorways, behind windows, always watching. One morning, I woke up with my phone in my hand and a video already playing. In it, I'm lying in bed, asleep. The camera slowly pans down to my face. It's filmed from above, like someone or something is standing over me. The breathing on the video is loud, uneven, not mine. Then a whisper. It says my name, not like a question, like a promise. I threw the phone into the trash, bought a burner. No internet, no apps, just calls. But the first time I turned it on, it already had a voicemail. No number, no timestamp, just breathing. The sounds came back, scraping now inside the walls, whispers through the vents, sometimes laughter. Once I woke up to find my closet door wide open and all the clothes hanging backward, as if someone had been inside, searching for something, or waiting. Then I started forgetting things. Whole hours lost, sometimes an entire day. Once I looked at the clock and it was noon, blinked, and it was midnight. I stopped leaving the apartment, stopped speaking to people. Paranoia took over. Until one night, there was a knock at the door. 3 knocks, then silence. I didn't move. Another 3. A voice followed, low, calm, my own voice. "I know you're awake." I backed away from the door, every hair on my body standing on end. The voice came again. "I'm just like you, only better." Then the sound of the lock turning. But I hadn't moved. The door creaked open an inch and stopped. I stood there frozen until I managed to slam it shut and bolt every lock. I checked the footage. The hallway camera was blank during the knock. But at the exact moment the door opened, every camera inside the apartment cut out for 20 seconds. When they came back on, I wasn't alone in the footage. Something stood behind me, just for a second, then gone. I left the next morning. I drove until the tank was empty. Rented a room at a roadside motel and threw the laptop off a bridge. I kept the lights on, slept for a few hours, then woke up to find a new laptop on the desk. It wasn't there before. It was open. A message glowed on the screen. "Welcome back." The screen changed. A live feed, my motel room. I turned around. Nothing. Then the feed changed. Another angle, closer. Then another, directly above me. I unplugged it, yanked every cord out, but the screen stayed on. One final message appeared. "You let me in once, that was enough. Now I see him everywhere, not just online. In crowds, in reflections, standing in the distance, always facing me. Sometimes I catch glimpses of him copying my movements, always just a half second off, like he's learning to be me. And sometimes he gets it right. Perfectly right. Too right. I've had people say hello to me when I wasn't there. I've had neighbors tell me they saw me outside when I was inside. Once I called a friend and she said, confused, 'Didn't we just talk 5 minutes ago?' I asked what I said. She paused, then whispered, 'You asked if I could see your eyes.' I never said that. I don't know how long I have. But I can feel something shifting. Some days I look in the mirror and I'm not sure I'm the one looking back. If you're hearing this, if this reaches you somehow, do not search for the other side. Do not open anything you don't understand. If something knocks, don't answer. And if you ever see yourself standing where you shouldn't be, it's already too late." It started with a dare. Not the kind you laugh about later, not the kind you forget. This was the kind whispered between people who should have known better. A rumor passed around in hushed tones. They called it the stream beneath the stream. A part of the internet you couldn't find on your own. It found you. You didn't search for it. You stumbled across it. That's how it began for me. I was alone in my apartment, the kind of night where silence isn't peaceful. It's pressing. The lights were off. My face lit only by the screen. I was 5 hours into an aimless scroll through conspiracy boards and abandoned forums. Then I saw a post that hadn't been there a second ago. The title was simple. 3 words: watch, don't share. No user, no date, just the title and a video thumbnail. A dark room, a single chair. Something sat in it, but the image was too low-res to make out. I hovered, then clicked. The stream was live. A grainy feed, low quality, no sound. Just a man sitting in the chair, his back to the camera. He didn't move, didn't shift, didn't blink. At least, I couldn't tell if he did. He just sat there in perfect stillness. I watched for 10 minutes thinking it was some kind of art project or performance piece, but then the camera zoomed in, slowly, deliberately. I didn't touch anything. No keyboard input, no mouse movement. It moved on its own. I should have closed it. Instead, I leaned forward. The man's head twitched. Barely noticeable, a sudden jerk. Then again, a little more pronounced, like a puppet learning its strings. He stood. His back still faced the camera, but the movement didn't look natural. His arms hung too long, his legs bent at wrong angles. As he walked forward, the camera panned left, revealing a mirror on the wall. That's when I saw it. His face, it was mine. exactly mine, but wrong. Eyes too wide, skin too pale, smile too slow, like it had to think about every expression before using it. The screen flickered, then went black. I stared at my reflection in the dark glass. Then the whisper came, not from the computer, from behind me. It said clearly and calmly in my own voice, "You watched. You're part of it now." I turned. Nothing there. Just the usual room, bookshelf, desk, lamp. But my shadow on the wall was off. It didn't match me. My arms were still, but the shadow's fingers twitched. I stood perfectly still. The shadow tilted its head. I blinked. It stopped. I shut down the computer, disconnected the internet, turned every light on in the apartment. The next morning, I tried to forget. I told myself it was stress, a prank, a lucid dream brought on by too much caffeine and too little sleep. That was the first night. The second night, I heard footsteps on the ceiling. I live on the top floor. They were slow, measured, back and forth above my bedroom. I stayed frozen in bed, counting the gaps between each step. Then they stopped directly above me. I held my breath. A voice came through the vent. Still mine. Let me down. That morning, I filed a noise complaint with the building manager. She looked confused, said the top floor had been empty for months, renovations, no access. I went back to my apartment. The upstairs footsteps followed. By the third night, I stopped sleeping. I took my computer apart, piece by piece, dumped the hard drive in the trash, bought a new one, never touched the dark web again. I used only clean browsers, monitored my firewalls, changed every password. It didn't matter. The live stream returned anyway. Not through the internet, through my dreams. I would close my eyes, and I'd be back in that room. The chair, the mirror, the figure facing away. But every time I dreamt, it was closer to the camera, closer to me. And every time, its movements were more convincing, like it was learning. One night, I woke up to find a note under my pillow. Not a dream, just a single line in handwriting identical to mine. Almost ready. The police said there were no signs of forced entry, no fingerprints, nothing stolen. They told me it was probably a joke. Someone who knew me, but no one did. I kept to myself, worked from home, no social media, no family nearby. I moved out the next day. New city, new number, new everything. The nightmares stopped, for a while. Then one morning I got an email. No sender, no subject, just a video attachment. I didn't open it. I didn't have to. The thumbnail was enough. It was me, sleeping in my new apartment. Same bedspread, same window, same clock on the wall. Filmed from above. I checked the ceiling. Nothing. But when I looked in the bathroom mirror, my reflection didn't follow me right away. It hesitated, lagged, then caught up with a smile. I covered every mirror in the place. I stayed up for days, watching the windows, locking and unlocking the doors just to be sure. That's when I saw him again, on the street, in a crowd. Me, exactly me, wearing my face like a mask, walking with that same stiff, too careful gait. A stranger with my skin. He stopped, looked at me, smiled, then kept walking. I followed. He turned a corner. I followed again. But when I rounded the bend, he was gone. No doors, no alleys, just a wall. And on that wall, written in something dark and wet, were two words. You followed. I packed what I could and drove until the tank was empty. Found a roadside motel. Paid in cash. No ID. I told myself I could run. That it wasn't real. That night, someone knocked on the motel door. 3 soft taps. Then silence. I froze. Another 3. A whisper followed. I've waited long enough. I looked through the peephole. No one there. But when I turned around, the mirror above the sink was uncovered. I know I covered it, and in that mirror, there were 2 of me. One behind, one ahead. The one behind smiled and whispered, "Ready now." I lunged at it, shattered the glass. Shards flew everywhere. My hand bled, but when I looked down at the broken pieces, each one showed a different version of me. One crying, one laughing, one mouthing a word I couldn't hear, and one walking away. I ran. I kept running. But the more I ran, the more I saw him. In crowds, on screens, reflected in car windows, every version more confident than me, more real. Now I don't know which one I am anymore. I don't know if I'm the original or if I've already been replaced. Sometimes I see videos on public computers showing me walking down streets I've never been to. Sometimes strangers call me by the wrong name, saying we met before, saying I said things I don't remember. And sometimes I wake up in places I don't recognize, with mirrors I know I didn't uncover. So if you're hearing this, if you ever stumble across a stream you weren't supposed to find, don't watch. And if you already did, Don't look in the mirror. You might not like who's looking back. I should have stopped the moment I saw the message, but when you're chasing shadows online, it's hard to tell the difference between curiosity and obsession. It started as just another sleepless night, one of many. The room was dim, lit only by the glow of my monitor, the air stale with the weight of hours spent alone. I was deep in a thread about the dark web, the kind that gets buried fast and locked even faster. One comment caught my eye. It read, "There's a site that watches you back. If you're reading this, it already knows." I scrolled past it. Then my screen flickered. Once. Twice. Then a white page loaded with no browser header, no tabs, nothing but a question. Are you ready to see the truth? There were no buttons, no way to exit. I sat there, fingers hovering above the keyboard, convincing myself it was a prank or some clever coding trick. I typed no. The screen turned black. A few seconds later, words appeared again. Too late. Then my webcam light flicked on. I hadn't touched anything. I slammed the laptop shut and unplugged it. The room was dead quiet, but my heart pounded so loud I couldn't hear myself think. I tried to tell myself it was a coincidence, a virus, malware, maybe one of those sites that plays tricks to scare people off. But that didn't explain the cold feeling that had settled in my chest, the kind that doesn't come from fear alone, more like being watched. I left the apartment the next day, took my laptop to a repair shop and told them to wipe the whole system. When I got it back, they said they found nothing unusual. No viruses, no sign of tampering. Everything was clean. That night, it happened again. The screen turned on by itself. No login, no noise, just a black window and the faint sound of breathing. Not mine. I reached for the power cord, but before I could unplug it, a new message appeared. You looked away. I didn't. Then a video started playing. It showed my bedroom from the ceiling corner, an angle that shouldn't exist. I watched myself lying in bed, tossing and turning. Then, something entered the frame. A figure, tall and still, stood at the edge of the bed. It had no face, just smooth, pale skin where a face should have been. It bent forward, leaning close to my sleeping self. The screen went black again. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next day, I tore my apartment apart, checked every vent, every ceiling tile. Nothing. I thought maybe I was going crazy, lack of sleep, too much time online. But then I started finding things. At first, it was small. The door I knew I'd locked standing wide open. Lights on in rooms I hadn't entered. Food missing from the fridge. Then I found the photographs, Polaroids. Dozens of them, placed neatly under my mattress. Everyone taken from above, me sleeping, me eating, me in the shower. Some from angles I couldn't explain, like the inside of the mirror or the reflection of a spoon. There was one that made my knees buckle. It was me sitting at my desk, only I wasn't alone. Behind me, barely visible in the shadow of the hallway, stood the figure. Tall, still. Head tilted slightly, like it was studying me. I left the apartment that night, booked a motel under a fake name. No electronics, no camera, just me and a deadbolt. I thought I'd escaped. I was wrong. When I woke up, my laptop was sitting on the table. I hadn't brought it. It was open. The screen glowed with another message. You brought me with you. A video loaded. It was the motel room. This time, the angle was from inside the bathroom mirror. I watched myself sleep. Then, slowly, the bathroom door opened. The figure stepped out. It didn't walk. It slid, like it wasn't touching the floor. It leaned over me. Then it turned to the camera and raised one long, thin finger to where its mouth should have been. Shh! I slammed the screen down and ran. I didn't go home. I didn't go anywhere familiar. I rented a cabin far outside the city, off the grid. No phone signal, no internet, just silence. I stayed there for 3 days. No screen, no lights. I started to believe maybe it was over. Then I found the mirror. It was under the bed, a full-length mirror lying face down. I hadn't brought it in. The cabin didn't come with one. I turned it over. For a long time, I just stared. The reflection wasn't right. The cabin looked the same, but my reflection was smiling. I wasn't. I stepped back. The reflection stayed where it was, still smiling, head tilting further than any neck should allow. Then it raised a hand, knocked on the inside of the mirror. 1, 2, 3 times. The glass cracked. I ran. I didn't even pack. Just left the cabin, keys still in the door. I drove until I couldn't see trees anymore. until I was surrounded by people and concrete. I thought crowds would keep me safe, but now it's different. Now I see it in the reflections of car windows, in the eyes of strangers, in the static of televisions left on too long. It doesn't need a camera anymore. It doesn't need a mirror. It's in the memory now. Sometimes I'll be walking down the street and someone will nod to me, call me by name, ask how my night was, only I've never seen them before. I ask where we met. They always say the same thing. You came to my room last night. You just stood there and watched. It's using me. I don't know if I ever shut that first window. I don't know if I ever actually unplugged the cord. Maybe I'm still sitting there in the dark, staring into a screen that's staring back. Maybe I never left. And maybe you're watching me now. Maybe you clicked a link that wasn't there a minute ago. Maybe you're reading words that know you're reading them. If this sounds familiar, if you've seen it, if you felt it, it knows. And now you're part of it too. Because the truth isn't on the screen. The truth is behind it. Watching, waiting, learning. I never should have gone looking. But that's the thing about curiosity. It doesn't whisper, it claws. It started one night while I was watching a video compilation of so-called dark web mysteries. Most of it felt like fiction, overacted voiceovers, manipulated clips, photos that had been circulating for years. But there was one part I hadn't seen before. Just a grainy screen recording, maybe 15 seconds long. It showed a black site with a single command prompt. Then a flash of a face. No context. No sound. Something about it stuck with me. I paused the video and rewound it over and over. That face, pale, wide-eyed, staring straight ahead, looked familiar, but I couldn't place it. The comments were filled with jokes, dares, warnings. One of them simply read, "If you see the site, it sees you too." I scrolled past it. I wish I hadn't. The video didn't list the site name, no links, but that didn't stop me from trying to find it. I read forums. I scraped archives. I used tools I didn't understand and shouldn't have touched. I learned about hidden layers, invitation-only URLs, shadow protocols, the kind of things no regular browser could access. It took weeks. Then one night, a thread appeared in a locked forum I had never seen open before. No title, just a single post with 3 words. Are you ready? There was no user attached to it, no date stamp, nothing to even prove someone had written it. I clicked the post. The screen turned black. A white command prompt blinked in the center, the same one from the video. Before I could touch the keyboard, something typed itself. "We've been waiting." My webcam light flicked on. I tried to close the tab, but there was no exit button, no task manager, just that blinking cursor. Then another line appeared. "Don't turn around." That's when I felt it. Not a sound, not a breath, just presence. A pressure behind me like the air had thickened. My throat went dry. I didn't turn. I couldn't. Instead, I stared at the screen. It flickered, then showed a live feed. It was me, sitting at my desk, eyes wide, pale from the glow of the screen. Only something was wrong. The angle was off, higher than my webcam. I looked closer. It was from behind me. I slammed the laptop shut and spun around. Nothing there, just my bedroom, my chair, my shelves, but my reflection in the dark monitor lingered a second too long. The next morning, the laptop was dead. Wouldn't power on. I took it to a repair shop. They said the hard drive had been wiped, not corrupted. Wiped clean. Like it had never held anything at all. I tried to forget it. Told myself I had fallen into some elaborate prank, that someone was messing with me and I'd let it in too far. But it wasn't over. I started hearing sounds at night. At first, it was soft clicking, like fingernails tapping on wood. Then whispers, low, fragmented, never full sentences, always right behind me. One night, I woke up to find every cabinet in my apartment open. Not just the doors, but drawers too. Even the ones I hadn't touched in months. Inside each one was a piece of paper. Every piece had the same phrase, written in shaky, uneven letters. "We're learning your shape." I moved out the next day. Got a new apartment across town, no forwarding address, new laptop, no connection to any of the forums I had visited. For a few weeks, things were quiet. Then I got a text from an unknown number. It was a photo of me standing outside my new building. I hadn't taken it. I was inside at the time. But there I was, staring straight up at the window of my own apartment. The message below said, "Do you know who's inside?" I changed my number, but it still found me. The first time I noticed it, I was brushing my teeth. I looked up at the mirror and froze. My reflection wasn't brushing. It was watching me. I stepped back. So did it. Then it smiled. I didn't. I covered the mirror and never looked again. But mirrors weren't the only problem. One day, I passed by a store window and saw myself already standing on the other side, perfectly still, watching. No expression. That night, I found muddy footprints on the inside of my front door. Barefoot. Thin. The prints didn't match my feet. Then came the videos. They appeared on my new laptop, even though I had disconnected from everything. No internet, no flash drives. But every night, a new file showed up on my desktop, always named you. I watched one, just once. It showed me, asleep. The camera hovered inches from my face. The sound of breathing was loud and ragged, not mine. I watched myself sleep while something whispered in a language I didn't know. Then, for a split second, I opened my eyes in the video and looked directly into the camera. I don't remember doing that. The next morning, the video was gone, but my pillow smelled like soil. That night, I blocked the door with furniture, pushed the dresser in front of it, locked the windows, sealed the vents. Still, I woke up with dirt under my fingernails. Now I can't tell when I'm alone anymore. I'll walk into a room and the air will feel wrong, heavier, like it's already occupied. Sometimes I'll catch movement in my peripheral vision. Sometimes the lights flicker. One night I came home and my apartment key didn't work. Not because the lock was changed, because the door was already open. I pushed it open slowly. The place was clean, nothing disturbed, except on my desk sat an old photo frame I didn't own. Inside it was a picture of me, sitting at the desk, smiling at the camera. Only the angle was from behind the monitor. I packed my things, got in the car, started driving. I didn't know where I was going, just needed distance. At a red light, I looked in the rearview mirror. My back seat was empty, but in the mirror, someone was sitting there, watching me. I turned around. No one. When I looked back, the mirror was cracked. Now I live in motels, cash only, no electronics. I cover every mirror. I don't stay in the same place for more than a night. But the problem isn't where I am. It's what I brought with me. It doesn't need the web anymore. It's inside the reflection. It's in the silence between your thoughts, the moment between blinks. It's studying you the way it studied me. It wants your face, your habits, your patterns. It doesn't take your life all at once. It replaces you slowly. No, I can't tell if I'm still me. Sometimes I'll speak and the voice won't sound right. Sometimes I'll see videos of myself online that I don't remember filming. Sometimes I wake up somewhere else with no memory of how I got there. And sometimes, just sometimes, I'll look in the mirror and see myself already staring, smiling, like it's waiting for me to figure it out. So if you ever come across a hidden forum, a strange prompt, a screen that asks if you're ready, don't answer, don't type anything. Don't even stay on the page. Because once it sees you, it never stops watching. And once it learns your shape, it knows how to wear it. It started with a post on an obscure forum, the kind of forum where people go to talk about the strange corners of the internet, places most never see and probably shouldn't. I'd been browsing it for hours, clicking through hoaxes and urban legends until I found a thread titled simply, "The Hidden Site." There were only a few comments. Most had been deleted. The ones that remained all said the same thing. Don't try to find it. Don't even read about it for too long. That's how it notices you. I scrolled past it. At first, I didn't care. Just another creepypasta, I thought. Just another story people told to scare each other. But I made the mistake of reading on. One comment stood out. It read, "If you're curious enough to keep reading, you'll find it. But once you find it, you can't unfind it. And once it sees you, it doesn't forget." That's when the lights in my apartment flickered, only for a second. Probably nothing. Power surge. Still, it made me pause. Then, at the bottom of the page, I saw something that hadn't been there before. A line of text in gray font, half faded into the background. "You're ready." I blinked, it was gone. I closed the browser and stepped away from the screen. For the rest of the night, I tried to put it out of my head. But curiosity, real curiosity, doesn't let go. It creeps into you. And once it's there, you can't get it out. The next night I went back, not to the forum. It was gone, erased like it never existed, but to the deeper corners of the internet. I opened an encrypted browser and began searching with keywords I'd seen mentioned. Most led nowhere. Dead links, garbled code, sites that vanished as fast as they appeared, until I found one. It was plain. No title, no images, just a single black screen with one white sentence in the center. "Do you want to continue?" No buttons, no mouse input, only the blinking cursor. I typed yes. There was a long pause. Then a new screen loaded. This time it showed a video feed. It was grainy, black and white. A single room. A man sat at a desk, facing away from the camera. At first I thought it was a loop, maybe a pre-recorded stream. But then he moved. He turned toward the screen, toward me. I jumped back from the monitor. He didn't have a face, just skin stretched where features should be, like someone had erased his identity but left the body behind. He tilted his head as if listening. Then he lifted a hand and pointed, not at the camera, at me. The stream cut out. In its place was a message, "We see you now." My laptop shut off. Not crashed, not powered down. It just died. I sat there in the glow of my desk lamp, my skin cold, my heartbeat slow and heavy. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, the laptop turned on like normal. No error messages, no record of what I'd seen, just my regular desktop. But there was a new folder in the corner, untitled. I opened it. Inside were images, dozens, maybe more. All of them of me sleeping, me at my desk, me brushing my teeth. Some of them were taken from impossible angles, like from inside the mirror or from the ceiling in rooms where I'd never installed a camera. I slammed the lid shut and yanked the power cable from the wall. I left my apartment that night. I went to stay with a friend across the city. I didn't tell him what was going on. How do you even start that conversation? Hey, I found a cursed website that may or may not be stalking me? I just said I needed a place to crash for a few days. He handed me a blanket and pointed to the couch. The first night there was quiet. The second night I had the dream. In it, I was in a windowless room. No doors, no lights, just me and that same faceless figure from the video. He stood across from me, motionless, silent. Then, slowly, he began to walk forward. Every step made a sound like bones breaking. When he reached me, he leaned close and whispered something into my ear. But it wasn't words. It was the sound of my own voice, screaming. I woke up gasping, soaked in sweat, my hands clenched so tightly my nails had broken the skin of my palms. I tried to tell myself it was just a nightmare, but when I stood up, I saw something on the living room table, a Polaroid photo of me, sleeping on the couch. I ran to the door, locked, chain bolted, no signs of forced entry. I checked the windows, nothing. I showed it to my friend. He laughed, said it was a weird prank. Maybe someone was messing with us. I nodded, pretended to agree, but I knew better. I left that night, found a cheap motel in a different part of town, paid in cash, no ID, no electronics, and for a little while, nothing happened, until the mirror cracked. I hadn't touched it. It wasn't broken when I checked in, but now a perfect line split it from top to bottom. Behind the crack, just for a second I thought I saw someone standing in the reflection, someone tall and still and featureless. I threw a towel over the mirror and didn't look again. That night I had another dream. This time I wasn't in the room alone. There were dozens of people, all of them with blank faces, all staring at me. They moved in perfect sync, like dancers with no rhythm. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. One by one, they stepped forward and began peeling off their skin. Underneath, they all had my face. I woke up in the bathtub, water running, clothes soaked. No memory of how I got there. The TV in the room was on, even though I never touched the remote. A static screen. Then, through the noise, I heard my voice, not from the dream, from the TV, saying words I'd never said, in a tone I didn't recognize. I see you now, I am you now, we are one. The screen flashed, then shut off. I left the motel with nothing but the clothes on my back. Now I move every day, never stay in the same place more than once. I don't use phones, I don't use computers, I avoid reflections, because every time I see one, I can tell it's not quite right. Sometimes it smiles before I do. Sometimes it blinks when I don't. And sometimes it just stares. I've heard others talk about it since, quietly, carefully. People who visited the same site, people who saw the man in the chair. Some don't make it long. Some lose their memories, their faces, their minds. Some just disappear entirely. I think that's the goal, to replace you, to wear you like clothing. So if you're listening to this, if you've stumbled across anything you shouldn't have, shut it down now. Walk away. Forget you ever heard of the hidden site. And whatever you do, don't look into the mirror. If you see yourself staring back, make sure it's blinking when you do. Because if it's not, it's already too late. I used to think nothing on the internet could genuinely scare me. Years of gore threads, conspiracy forums, and the deepest corners of the web had desensitized me to almost everything. So, when I heard about a stream that only appeared once, hosted on an obscure server buried deep within an unindexed part of the dark web, I didn't hesitate. People called it the last stream. No one knew who ran it. No one knew when it would appear again, but the rumors were always the same. You didn't find the stream, it found you. I stumbled across the invite on a thread I shouldn't have been reading. Just 3 lines of text. Do not screen record. Do not speak while it's playing. Do not look away. There was no link, just a command prompt code, sitting there like bait. I ran it. My screen flickered. A black window opened, static crawling across it like frost on glass. Slowly, an image sharpened. An empty, dimly lit room with a single chair in the center. That's when the chat popped up beside the stream. No usernames, no avatars, just nameless entries appearing every few seconds. It's starting. He's watching. Don't type, just watch. A girl walked into the frame. Early 20s, maybe younger, shaking so badly she could barely stand. Her wrists were bound with duct tape. She sat in the chair, head lowered. You could hear her breathing, fast, panicked. Then the screen glitched. A figure stepped into the corner of the room. Not masked, not cloaked, just an average-looking man in jeans and a dark hoodie. He said nothing, only stared into the camera for a long, uncomfortable moment. Then he turned and began circling the girl. The chat exploded. It's real this time. Oh God, it's her. She was on the missing list last month. The man produced something from his pocket. Not a weapon, a phone. He held it up to the girl's face and showed her something. She screamed, not a normal scream, more like something being torn apart. I could feel my stomach twist, and still, no sound came from the man. He moved like this wasn't the first time. I wanted to close the window, but I couldn't. Something in me wouldn't let me. The screen glitched again. For a split second, my webcam light turned on. I saw my own face reflected in the corner of the window, pale and wide-eyed. Then it went dark. A system message blinked in red at the bottom of the stream. Now we know who's watching. My pulse spiked. I yanked the power cable out of my laptop, but the screen didn't go dark. The stream was still going, and the man on screen had stopped what he was doing. Slowly, deliberately, he turned to the camera and smiled. Then he spoke. Don't look away. I blacked out. When I came to, my laptop was on the floor. The screen cracked like something had punched it from the inside. I was lying on the ground in my room, door open, though I never leave it that way. I was alone, or I thought I was. The paranoia started that night. Every screen in my apartment, my TV, my phone, even my smart fridge, would randomly flash static when I walked by. Sometimes I'd hear breathing through my earbuds when no music was playing. Sometimes the webcam light on my broken laptop would flicker back to life just for a second. I stopped sleeping. I started covering mirrors. I felt watched. Always. Not in the paranoid, irrational way. This was real. It was like something had crawled out of that stream and into my world. Then the girl from the video showed up. Not in person, not in any rational way. But every time I blinked in a dark room, I'd catch her reflection in something. Crying, bound, screaming. But not at the man in the hoodie. At me, like she knew I watched and did nothing. I finally snapped when I found the envelope. Slid under my door in the middle of the night. No stamp, no address, just my name in red marker. Inside was a single photo, me sitting in my chair, eyes glued to the screen, light from the stream reflecting on my face. On the back it said, "You're next." I moved out that same night. Packed a bag, left town, didn't even quit my job. I burned the laptop, got a new number, went completely offline. But it didn't matter. Wherever I went, it followed. In hotel TVs that turned on by themselves. In car radios that whispered static when I drove at night. In strangers who stared too long, too knowingly. Then one morning I woke up in a cheap motel, door wide open, and every device in the room powered on. All of them playing the stream. The girl was back in the chair. And so was I. Somehow, someone had stitched footage of me into it. But the real horror wasn't that. It was that the chat was back. And this time, it wasn't random users typing. It was names I recognized. Old usernames from forums I'd posted in. People I knew online. even one or two I knew in real life, saying the same thing. Don't speak while it's playing. Don't look away. Don't run. I ripped the power cords out again, smashed every screen in the room, but it didn't help. That night, I saw the man in the hoodie outside my window. He didn't move. He just stood there, watching. And I knew then, this wasn't about some cursed stream or underground content ring. This was a ritual. The stream wasn't filmed. It wasn't hosted. It was summoned, like a mirror held up to the worst parts of the web. It didn't want viewers. It wanted participants, witnesses, the kind of people who'd watch horror and gore, then shrug and keep scrolling. It fed on the desensitized, on people like me. I think the girl in the video was the last one who resisted, who tried to warn us. That's why she screamed like that. That's why her reflection still haunts mirrors. She's trapped there, in that loop of pain and silence. And the more people watch, the stronger it becomes. I don't know how many others saw it, but I know one thing. If the stream ever finds you, do not watch. Don't be curious. Don't try to prove how brave you are, because if you see it, it sees you. And once it sees you, it never stops watching. The screen flickered, casting a pale, ghostly glow across my cramped apartment. I sat, hunched over my desk, the hum of my old laptop the only sound in the stillness of the night. My eyes burned from hours of staring at lines of code, my latest freelance project for a client I'd never met. The job was simple enough. Clean up a database, optimize some queries, nothing I hadn't done 100 times before. But the client had been vague, their emails curt and oddly formal, directing me to a server hosted on an obscure corner of the internet. They'd sent me a link, a string of random characters that didn't resolve to any normal domain. It was a dark web address. I wasn't a stranger to the dark web. In my line of work, you learn to navigate its murky waters. Clients with secrets, businesses that don't want their data traced. I had the tools, Tor, a VPN, and enough paranoia to keep my tracks covered. But this job felt different. The server was a labyrinth of encrypted files, folders nested within folders, and data that didn't make sense. There were no names, no identifiers, just numbers and cryptic labels. My task was to organize it, but the deeper I dug, the more uneasy I became. Some files were locked with encryption I couldn't crack. Others were just wrong. Text documents filled with gibberish, images that wouldn't load, and audio files that sounded like static laced with faint, distorted whispers. I leaned back in my chair, rubbing my eyes. The client had paid half up front, a generous sum wired through an untraceable crypto wallet. That should have been a red flag, but money was tight, and I'd ignored the gnawing in my gut. Now, at 2 a.m, that gnawing had turned into a knot of dread. I opened the last folder, labeled simply Archive. Inside was a single video file. No extension, no metadata, just a string of numbers for a name. Against my better judgment, I clicked. The video loaded slowly, buffering in fits and starts. The screen went black, then flickered to life. It was grainy, shot in low light, the kind of footage you'd expect from a cheap security camera. A room came into focus, bare concrete walls, a single metal chair in the center, and a figure seated in it. Their face was obscured, blurred in a way that didn't look like a glitch, but something deliberate, like the footage had been tampered with. They sat motionless, hands folded in their lap, as if waiting for something. The audio was silent except for a faint, rhythmic tapping, like a finger on metal. I leaned closer, my heart thudding. The tapping grew louder, more insistent, and then the figure moved. They tilted their head as if looking directly at the camera, directly at me. The blur over their face seemed to shift, like a mask slipping, revealing nothing but darkness underneath. My breath caught in my throat. The video cut to static, and a low, guttural sound filled my headphones. Not quite a voice, but something that felt alive, aware. Then, abruptly, the video ended. I yanked off my headphones, my pulse racing. The apartment was silent, but the air felt heavier, like the room had shrunk around me. I told myself it was just a creepy file, probably some hacker's idea of a joke, but my hands shook as I closed the laptop. I needed to sleep, to clear my head. The job could wait until morning, except it didn't. When I opened my laptop the next day, the screen was already on, displaying a new email from the client. The subject line was blank and the body contained a single sentence. You watched it. My stomach dropped. I hadn't told anyone about the video, hadn't even saved it. I checked my browser history, my logs. Nothing showed I'd accessed the file, but they knew. I typed a quick reply demanding answers, but the email bounced back. Undeliverable. The address didn't exist anymore. I tried logging into the server, but my credentials were rejected. The job, the money, the entire setup, it was like it had vanished. But the video lingered in my mind. That blurred face, that tapping sound. I couldn't shake it. That night, I woke to the sound of static. My laptop was on, the screen glowing faintly in the dark. I hadn't touched it. I stumbled out of bed, my bare feet cold against the floor, and approached the desk. The video was playing again, looping the same grainy footage of the figure in the chair. But something was different. The room in the video, it wasn't just a bare concrete cell anymore. There were details, faint but unmistakable. A crack in the wall shaped like a jagged lightning bolt, a faint stain on the floor that looked like spilled coffee. My heart stopped. Those were details from my apartment. I slammed the laptop shut, my breath coming in sharp gasps. The static cut off, but the silence was worse. It was too quiet, like the world was holding its breath. I checked the locks on my door, the windows, everything was secure, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. I grabbed my phone, ready to call someone, anyone, but the screen was frozen, displaying a single notification. You're still watching. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the corner of my living room, a kitchen knife in my hand, listening for any sound that didn't belong. At dawn, I opened my laptop again, determined to figure out what was happening. The video was gone, deleted from the server, but in its place was a new file, a text document. I hesitated, then opened it. It was a list, names, addresses, phone numbers, hundreds of them. At the bottom, in bold, was my own name, my address, my phone number. Below it, a single line. You're next. My blood ran cold. I tried to delete the file, but it wouldn't budge. I reformatted my hard drive, reset my router, even smashed my external drive with a hammer. But when I powered the laptop back on, the file was still there, untouched. I stopped leaving the apartment. I unplugged my devices, covered my webcam with tape, but the feeling of being watched never left. At night, I heard the tapping, faint but unmistakable, coming from somewhere inside the walls. I tore apart my apartment looking for cameras, microphones, anything that could explain it. I found nothing. Days blurred together. I barely ate, barely slept. My phone buzzed constantly with notifications from unknown numbers, each one a variation of the same message. You watched it. You're next. I tried to trace the messages, but they led nowhere. Burner accounts, encrypted servers, dead ends. I was trapped in a nightmare I couldn't code my way out of. Then came the knock at my door. Slow, deliberate, 3 sharp raps. I froze, clutching the knife I'd kept by my side. I didn't answer, didn't move. The knocking stopped, but a piece of paper slid under the door. My hands trembled as I picked it up. It was a printout of a photo, a grainy image of me sitting at my desk staring at my laptop. The angle was from above, as if taken from inside my ceiling. I tore the apartment apart again, ripping out ceiling tiles, checking every inch of the walls. Nothing, no cameras, no wires, but the photo was real. I burned it in the sink, watching the edges curl and blacken, but the smell of smoke didn't erase the terror. That night, the tapping returned, louder, closer, like it was coming from inside my skull. I decided to fight back. I reinstalled Tor, dug into the dark web, searching for answers. I found forums, threads buried deep in encrypted networks where users whispered about a video, a cursed file that marked anyone who watched it. They called it the archive. No one knew where it came from, but those who saw it vanished. Some said it was a government experiment, others a hacker collective's sick game. One post from an anonymous user stood out. It's not a video, it's a key. Once you open it, they see you. I kept digging, following leads to dead servers and deleted threads. Then I found it, a live stream hidden behind layers of encryption. The footage was familiar, a concrete room, a metal chair, a blurred figure. But this time, the figure wasn't alone. Another person stood in the shadows, holding something, a knife maybe, or something worse. The stream cut out before I could see more. My laptop crashed, and when it rebooted, the screen displayed a single message: "You're here." The tapping stopped. The apartment went silent. Then, from the corner of the room, I heard a voice. Not from my laptop, not from my phone, but from the air itself. Low, guttural, like the sound from the video. It said my name. I don't know how long I sat there, frozen, waiting for something to happen. The voice didn't come again, but the air felt alive, watching, waiting. I burned my laptop, left my apartment, and checked into a motel under a fake name. I thought I could escape, start over. But last night, I found a new email on my phone from an address I didn't recognize. It contained a single attachment, a video. I haven't opened it. I don't know if I ever will. But I can still hear the tapping. It follows me, and every time I close my eyes, I see that blurred face waiting in the dark. Thank you for listening. Hope I didn't scare you too much. If you like my stories, please consider giving me a like and subscribe. See you next time.